Alright, pirates and privateers, this has been a long time coming, but due to the Season 12 leaks that we've received and a couple of things that I've had in the back of my mind recently, I figured I'd give you 3 things that I'd like to see in Sea of Thieves. Make sure to stay to the end of this video, because this last one I have a really big and ambitious idea. Starting off, we have my assumptions of what the 2 new weapons are going to be. Looking at our current weapon set, we have 4 current weapons: the cutlass, the pistol, the eye of reach, and the blunderbuss. Now we already have 3 of these shooting type weapons, but my assumption is that we're going to have 2 more melee style weapons. The first, and one that's been kind of a long conspiracy ever since the game launched, was the boarding axe, or I guess just the axe itself. But due to the keyword boarding, you would be able to climb up on an enemy ship, say like a galleon, sloop, or brig, and as you climb, you pump holes into their ship. Now I know that idea had been kind of walked back on, and instead of it doing that, you'd be able to climb onto enemy ships, but instead of doing that while you climb, you're able to go down below into a ship's hull, and if they already have a plank on part of their ship, you can pull it off with the boarding axe, making obviously an audible sound being one of the drawbacks, and the fact that it's a heavier weapon, giving it more of a cooldown between swings. Now for my second idea, this one also has been through the works throughout the community. It would be a knife or knives. I mean, we already have an emote for these things. We see them in game. People use them all the time. Why not let us be able to use those? It'd pretty much be the equivalent of, like, say, your cutlass is relatively roundabout the equivalent to your blunderbuss, boarding axe being more or less the equivalent of the eye of reach. So what would be your swap out for the flintlock? Well, obviously it would be a knife or some other shorter-ish kind of weapon. The drawbacks by this one would be, yes, it deals less damage, but at the same time you'll be able to swing at a quicker combo and be able to deal fast amounts of damage, making this thing a little more of a viable option if you, say, have a eye of reach and you need to get a quick combo in and you don't have to worry about them knocking off your combo, since the cutlass would swing slower than the dagger. Now coming up for number 2, we have more in-depth ship customization. Now I know I'm going to be an outlier in this situation, but no, we do not need a 6-player man-of-war. There's my hot take. What I think we need is more in-depth ship customization. Here's what I mean by that. I want to be able to customize every single part of my ship, bow to stern, mizzenmast to foremast. I want to customize the shape, I want to customize the look, I want to customize everything down to the wood. Here's a picture that I found online. Granted, this is just the sloop, but look at it. You have the stern area that's been modified to at least look different. You have one that looks a little more tacky, you have one that's a bit more extended, you have one that's a bit more, I don't know, almost homey-like. There's a whole untapped potential with ship customization. Yes, I know we can customize the cannons, figurehead, hull, all of that stuff, but I want to be able to make the ship my own, as I'm sure many others do. What we need is not a new ship, but more in-depth ship customization. I want to be able to customize the bow of my ship. I want to be able to customize how my masts look, the amount of sails that I have. Here's how I would implement this. You would be able to sail your base model ship. As you progress through captaincy, this would make this a little bit more fun. Due to its passive progression nature, you'd be able to say, hey, guess what? You just unlocked a rear sail once you got to rank 10 or something, or you got to be able to unlock a front sail. I think that each of these parts that are added to your ship, as far as sails go, they should implement and affect your sailing. So when you turn your wheel or your helm, it would adjust or move your rear sail, making any ship that you apply this sail to more nimble in the water. You'll be able to turn a little bit quicker, and you'll be able to do sharper turns. Even with your sails full billow, you'll be able to turn harder than any ship of that same type without the rear sail. Now for the front sail, I think this should give you more ability to sail faster against the wind. Not too much, maybe like a 10 or 15% increase, but it'd be noticeable. Be able to sail faster against the wind with a front sail equipped, and say with all these other little sails here on this galleon model that I found, it adds like, I don't know, 1 or 2% just because it it's such a big ship. You're going to need more of these to have the equivalent of sailing round about the same rate as the smaller ships, whereas a sloop only needs one, a brig may need 2 or 3, but a galleon clearly would be needing more. And this would work across the board and be able to customize these, and they'd match the sails that you have in your current ship. And one thing that I think that the current ships in Sea of Thieves struggle with is the fact that due to the lack of like rigging and all these other sails and parts that really add to the naval feel of, being on a boat. I know the Sea of Thieves style is cartoony, but it just looks incomplete. I mean, it looks more like I'm sailing a toy. If I'm going to be sailing a cartoon ship, I want it to at least be a little bit more, accurate to the era that we're in. If anything, Rare, just give me more rigging, give me more ropes and parts that move when I'm adjusting stuff. It'll make me a whole lot happier. Now, finally coming at number 3, we have a Hunter's Call update. Now, this has been long coming. A lot of people have been wanting a Hunter's Call update for the longest time, ever since it was implemented. Hell, after Season 11 released with its diving mechanics, the only ones that haven't been given voyages to dive for is the Hunter's Call and the Reaper's Bones. Now, this one may or may not be getting implemented into Season 12. I've heard a lot of people say that it's going to be a Hunter's Call update that I've seen online, and granted, it may not be as in-depth as my idea for the Hunter's Call, but just hear me out. So like any voyage that you can dive for the Hunter's Call, you're able to go to your quest table, go to the Hunter's Call tab, and be able to select a voyage to dive for. Now, what would the voyages be? It'd be something stupid, right? Well, I think they should keep things the way that they have them set up, but change the way that you do them. For example, keep fishing in the game clearly, but have a voyage for fishing. How would this work? Well, you go over to your quest table, you click on the fishing voyage, and it has roundabout, I'd say maybe 3 different types of fish for each of the 4 different regions in Sea of Thieves. And they shuffle, I don't know, monthly or something. Once you pick one of these, it's going to give you a map of the entirety of Sea of Thieves. So it's going to give you the zoomed out version of the whole Sea of Thieves map for the region. It's going to have an X with a circle that's at least 5. After this, you're going to sail to that location, roundabout roughly in that area of that circle that you're given. You'll find a small rowboat with one of the Hunter's Call fishermen already there. You're able to fish on that spot, catch X amount of fish that you vowed to catch when you put down your quest. Say like a castaway's voyage or a sailor's voyage would be, I don't know, you catch 5 or so fish, and then for a captain's fishing voyage, you'd get roundabout maybe 10 or 12 fish of these types. Now, the ones that I don't think should be added is the rarer like wrecker fishes and like the storm fish. Leave those to their own like emergent thing where you have to catch them in a storm or during a battle. This would make fishing a little bit more viable, and this would definitely, I think, in my opinion, should raise the rate that your reputation increases. Now, here's the big one that I'm excited for, and this one has a really big implementation that kind of goes back to ship customization: diving for Megs. I'm kind of on the fence if you should be able to dive for a Kraken. I think it should just be like still a random emergent encounter if there's no world event. I kind of like that. If you select to dive for a Megalodon, each of which are in their own region, the Ancient Terror being in the Ancient Isles, the Crested Queen being in the wilds, the Hungering One being in the Shores of Plenty, and the Shadow Maw being in the Devil's Roar. After you put down this voyage for hunting one of these Megalodon, it will send you to the specific region that Meg is located in a random spot in that region, giving you another full map of that region zoomed out with the grid pattern, and this one will be really broad, 8 to 10. You have to sail to this location, and instead of looking for a boat, you're going to look for a massive flock of seagulls, and it'll be following the Megalodon in certain spots. Now, here's another thing that this Hunter Calls update would implement. You can go to the Hunter's Call. You have to go to the Hunter's Call specifically to buy these, but you go to the Hunter's Call, any sea posts, you buy what is called a Meg Flare. What does this do? Well, you're able to get these for your cannons. You load it up, and it shoots a very bright red flare. You have to shoot this over the flock of seagulls, so you have to find the location that the Meg is in, look around that circle area for a large flock of moving seagulls, shoot the flare across the pack of seagulls, which will get the Meg's attention, bringing it up. And the Meg will do one of 2 things. It will either come at you like a regular encounter, but what I think would be really sick is if it swam away from you, thus calling it, more of a hunt. If it swims away from you, you have to sail after this thing, harpoon it, and reel it in to slow it down. But reeling it in isn't going to be enough. We already know in-game that Megs can pull your ship all over the place, even a galleon. But here was what would be sick. I think there should be mast extensions. You can only use these when hunting a megalodon. If you have it latched onto one of your 2 harpoons, you can extend these. It'll be like a cleat at the bottom of each mast. You pull on these, and it swings out this forearm for each of the yard arms on each mast for each sail. And when the Meg pulls you, you're going against the wind, and the sails have more surface area to slow down the megalodon. Once you've reeled it in enough, you'll hear an audible growl, and it'll turn around and start swinging around and attacking you, playing out like any regular megalodon encounter. And you're like, okay, that's sweet. So I'm just doing this to get a random assortment of loot, or just the meat. I guess I'm just getting the meat. Well, yes, you're getting the meat. I don't think you should get any loot, but you should get the carcass itself. This would be really freaking cool. A lot like Red Dead, if you can go out and about, hunt down these animals, bring back the carcasses, skin them and stuff. I think you should be able to do the same thing, but with the megalodon. So once you kill the Meg, you have to reposition your ship so that the back is facing the Meg. There will be, I think there should, I'm just thinking in the terms of the galleon, but it would be adjusted for each ship. Say there's like 2 on the sloop, maybe there's 3 for the brig, and then there's 4 of these cleats, 2 on the top part and 2 on the balcony. After this, you're going to click on these, which will give you a rope in hand. After that, you jump off the ship, go to the Meg, hold whatever button you'd use to tie the Meg up, and you have to do this 4 times for a galleon, so it'd be adjusted for cruise size. It would just make megalodons a whole lot funner. Now, I think that the rate that they spawn for random emergence encounters should be brought down after this, but it shouldn't, go away completely. They should still, pop up and stuff, and you can get random assortment of loot from the random emergent encounters. But I think this would completely bump up the Hunter's Call from where it's at right now, where it's kind of just the Mermaid Gem Company.